Avery Williams. Round 6, pick 3, wide receiver Frank Darby. As we have Tony, who has just joined us. Tony, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing well. How are you guys doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Good to hear. Good to hear.
Yes, it's nice to actually talk to you again. I want to apologize to my Zero fans for the fact that this being with golf is going to be a little bit of an issue with being on time, apparently, because the place that I go to doesn't like to make food fast. So, gonna have to correct that.
Well, one thing you said is already correct. I think you've got 3 fans right here, Dan, and Tony. Or Dan, and Dan, excuse me. You are Tony.
Yeah, I mean, I am my own fan. So
if you're not your own biggest fan, who's going to be, right?
Precisely.
Anyways.
So, from the sounds of it, we're in the Falcons.
We literally just started with the draft. We got our annoyance with the Knicks out of the way, so we're going right into the draft now. I just read through all of the picks for the Falcons.
I'm surprised that the annoyance with the Knicks only lasted that long.
Oh, it went 15 minutes, so.
I know, but that seems a little light. But we can keep going.
And
they couldn't have possibly blown it by now, right?
Right. I mean, the
only down 3 so far.
Well, let's just say that
there's still time. Still time.
The opening tip-off, Taj Gibson did beat Clint Capella, but then the ball went out of bounds, an immediate turnover. So.
Oh, lovely.
Yes. I know we're going to disagree. We're just going to move on with the Falcons. I know we're going to disagree. So I'll just go with their best pick. In my opinion, offensive lineman Jalen Mayfield. Matt Ryan needs a solid offensive line in front of him. Because he's losing Julio Jones, he's still going to have Calvin Ridley, who is a superstar in the making, who just needs the attention that Julio gets. At this point, really should be focused on Calvin Ridley, and the world is going to see just how good he really is. So, get a guy that can block, allow Calvin Ridley to get open. Best pick, Jalen Mayfield for the Atlanta Falcons. That being said, worst pick, not only of this team, but I think in the entire draft. And I know I'm going to get shit on for this, but it's round 1, pick 4, tight end Kyle Pitts. All right, let me just explain why I hate this pick. First of all...
Yeah, explain yourself.
First of all, he's not a tight end, he's a wide receiver. Okay? He might have been a tight end in college. Second of all, he might be a wide receiver, but he's only going to be a vertical threat. He's not running NFL routes, and if he is, he's going to get smacked up by a linebacker, and his routes are not crisp, and he's going to get undercut by a safety or a corner. So he needs to run vertical, and you need to have passes that are within a very precise catch radius, because NFL secondaries are going to eat him alive if the ball is slightly underthrown or slightly overthrown. He's not catching it. NFL secondaries are not the same as a Mississippi State secondary, as a Kentucky secondary, as a Vanderbilt secondary. He did do well against Alabama, and I will say every single day of the week, the Alabama defense is an NFL defense. But outside of Alabama, he did not see NFL defenses, and I don't think that he's going to have the same kind of impact that a lot of people think he will. I think he will win a few jump balls. He'll get a few touchdowns, which Julio Jones just doesn't seem to be able to do for the Falcons. I think you're seeing a guy who's going to end up being a red zone specialist, if that, because I don't see his route running, his wide receiver ability to be anything more than a jump, catch, touchdown type of player.
Okay.
And also, his blocking is pretty atrocious. I mean, if you've seen, he, as a tight end, I think gave up the second most sacks on a block that he blocked in college football.
So that's the biggest thing I agree with you on, is the blocking is an issue, and he's not great at it, and certainly needs to improve. I think just saying he's going to catch a few passes is a little crazy because he's got great hands, great height. If he's being covered by a cornerback, good luck to that cornerback trying to get up to a high point ball. We'll see if he gets, who he gets covered by is really going to be the question, how they play him. If they find he's getting, outmatched by linebackers and getting, hit hard, then maybe they put him at wideout. But there's very few linebackers that are going to be able to keep up with him.
I think that he's a mismatch problem. That's what you're overlooking here. Is what are you going to do as a defense? If you put a corner on him, like Dan just said, good luck to that corner being able to match up with size. If you put up a linebacker on him, good luck with that linebacker being able to match up speed and vertical threat. And what are you going to do? Drop down a safety? Because now that opens the door for Calvin Ridley to be running all over the secondary with no help on top. It does help Calvin Ridley. I can't say that was their worst pick in the draft. Also, because of the fact that, in my opinion, they took the best player available in this draft at the lowest risk. Yeah, you want him to bulk up? That's fine. Players do that all the time. Do you need him to work on blocking? Sure. But I can teach a guy to move his feet, move his hands a lot faster than I can teach a guy to go out there and catch a ball for me.
I also very much disagree with the best player, him being the best player in the draft. There are two guys that I think, if I were a team, I looked very strongly at Penei Sewell and Jamar Chase with my number one picks. Because those two guys, in my opinion, were by far the best players in the draft. And it's not even close.
I can see the argument for Chase.
Sure. I also disagree that Pitts is the best player in the draft. But that doesn't mean to me that he's a bad pick. I like what I've seen from him, and I think he can make the transition to the next level. I don't like the pick at 4, though, because it's the tight end position, which is not really a premium position in the NFL. Even with a guy that's a mismatch, the Falcons had a whole bunch of other needs. I guess they're going all in with Matt Ryan for his last couple of years, but tight end is not going to get you guys over the edge, especially when your defense is basically Swiss cheese. And Matty Ice is sometimes ice cold, so you need defense to be able to bail him out when he's like that, when he's not, when he's not hot. Which is going to happen.
Like I said, I do think Matty Ice is going to thaw out a little bit now that they got Jalen Mayfield covering his ass. But I completely agree with you. There's one team, looking at the roster, looking at the way they play, where I think Kyle Pitts in the first round makes sense, and that is with the Saints. They love running those gadget-type players, and I feel like lining Kyle Pitts up in the slot, lining him up at a wideout, having him come out of the backfield, could make him a serious threat for him to run it, for him to catch it, for him to do whatever is needed.
You're talking about running Pitts out of the backfield.
Only on one or two plays, very occasionally.
You have that player on your roster who's not as talented in Taysom Hill. You literally already have that guy.
That's what I'm saying. They seem to like those gadget-type players.
For the Saints to go after him. And I would make the argument that tight ends are at a premium in the NFL. Because at almost any other position in the NFL, you could easily stop a bunch of guys who are fucking premium talent. But if you look at the tight end, there's 5, maybe?
And 2 teams have 2 each?
Right, but that makes it premium talent because they are not a dime a dozen. They're not around come free agency time. They're not available to switch teams because teams know what they have. And if you have the opportunity that, he could be a bust for all I know, but the way that he's projected, and as long as he's put in a position to succeed, you may have something that is invaluable to other teams because it just doesn't exist. I mean, we thought Evan Ingram was great. Garbage.
Yeah, he's become a problem.
He was great his first year and then became terrible. That could happen to Pitts, but I'm willing to bet that out of all those quarterbacks that came out in the first round, betting guess to me is 2 out of the 5 will be successful.
I think 3 of the 5 will be, and I think one of them should have been taken here. I think Justin Fields should have been the pick at 4.
See, now, I wouldn't have thought that was a bad pick in that scenario because who in the next coming drafts gives you the wherewithal to say, you know what, that guy is a franchise quarterback? I argue none. I can't think of anybody coming up that really makes that argument.
The only thing that makes sense to me is that the Falcons are betting on a team seeing that their backup quarterback is better than the starter. Maybe a situation where, like, and I don't think that this is the case, but if Daniel Jones doesn't seem to be clicking with the Giants halfway through the season, go get him at the deadline. He'll be cheap. There's your guy. Because I think Daniel Jones is the most underrated player in the NFL, any position. He's been put in a position to fail with his offensive line, and they're finally giving him weapons, but he still needs time to gel and mesh with what he's got. Galladay, Toney, Darius Slayton, I think is a very underrated, very formidable wide receiver core, but he's got to have time to be able to get them the ball. I think we've seen flashes of brilliance, and that is what I think Daniel Jones is. Or if the Panthers don't seem like they're actually all in on Darnold, take a flyer if it's cheap with Darnold at the trade deadline, because I don't think the Panthers are married to him. You know what I mean? Or go for someone young.
I don't think the Panthers are married. The Panthers clearly haven't been married to him. The way that they've been handling it, I don't think that they are. And I have mixed feelings about Daniel Jones. I completely agree with you, but I also think that, and this is the first time I felt like in a long time, considering who we had before this, but I actually feel like with watching what Judge is doing, that Judge actually has a plan here. You just got to give him the time to get his plan.
All right. I don't really care about the goddamn Giants. We already talked about them too goddamn much, along with the rest of the NFC East. We're here to talk about the NFC South.
All right.
All right. Yeah. Let's. I mean, we can move on from Atlanta because I don't see us agreeing that was. To me, that's not their worst pick. I mean.
So who was?
I do like a lot of their picks because they spent. That's the tough part. Is actually not their worst pick. Is the tough part to me because what they did with the rest of the draft. Yeah, they went out and got a no tackle, which arguably could be their best pick. I like Pitts as far as what his ceiling could be and how explosive he could be for them going forward. But they didn't really make terrible picks. They took a lot of chances on defense, which they desperately need.
Especially losing KZ and losing Neal.
That's my problem with it, is that they didn't put any sort of premium on defense, and I think they already kind of had a pretty good offense. So to not spend anything on defense and to go all in on offense is just kind of crazy to me.
Wasn't their second round pick a defensive player?
No, their second round pick. Oh, yeah, it was. Sorry, it was Grant, the safety. So yeah, they replaced. Take your pick. Keanu Neal, DeMonte Casey, both are now in Dallas. They lost both of their safeties, so they kind of their hand was forced.
So yeah, that was the one player that they got, and he's like, you know, Grant looks decent, but I don't know. I think when you were just giving up points on points on points, to not address that really at all is crazy to me. I don't know. I gave them a C for their draft. I don't think they did anything terrible. I don't think they did anything that's really going to help them take the next step. I think they're again going to be a middling team, maybe make the playoffs, but go nowhere in the playoffs, and that's about it.
I agree with that assessment entirely. I think a C is the best grade you can give them.